Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Very excited to be here. Very special guest, brother by the name of Justin. Justin has an immense amount of experience when it comes to sales, when it comes to transportation and logistics. And, I'm very excited to have this brother join us. Every Myers. I'm based out of Atlanta, Georgia. I am a dispatcher by trade, and I am always consulting, always connecting two entities that need to meet. And, we've spoken many a times. You know who I am, but now that we have Justin on the stage, I want to go ahead and give him the opportunity to introduce himself. So, Justin, can you please introduce yourself? Let the folks know who you are.
Hey, I'm happy to, and thanks for the invite. I'm Justin Turner. My current role is Senior Vice President of a company in San Diego called Flock Freight. What we do is we're a technology company that uses algorithms and data science to carpool freight. And basically what that means is that if you could imagine a similar methodology that you'd experience in the ride-sharing industry. You can carpool using the Uber platform. Imagine that in transportation, where you could, play Tetris essentially with a 53-foot dry van and combine multiple shipments using algorithms and data science and allow a driver to route through and pick up each one of those pickups and deliver it straight to the destination without the utilization of warehouses or terminals. The company today is backed by Google Ventures and SoftBank, and we got about 400 employees today, headquartered in San Diego, with offices in Chicago and globally. So I don't know if you want me to go much deeper than that. I can talk through the background, or I can continue talking through my current role.
Okay. Well, to be honest, I did want to talk about that a little bit. So you said that similar to Uber Pool. How is it similar to Uber Pool in how your company is moving freight?
Yeah, good question. So let's just use the analogy of ride sharing, right? You can pay, let's just say we're in Atlanta, right? You can pay $60 to be in an Uber by yourself and ride to the airport, or many times Uber will offer you a financial incentive, a discount, essentially, to pool. All right, maybe that ride goes from $60 to $35. I don't know, right? Well, if three other people also pay $35, each one of those consumers saw a discount of call it 45%, excuse me. But what's happened is you've exponentially increased the value of the asset. What used to be worth $60 is now worth $140, right? Four consumers pay $35 versus one paying $60. And what it does, it allows the driver to be paid more, right? Because now there's more revenue in that asset, so you can pay the driver more. And then also, each one of the consumers get to their destinations on time, right, by sharing that asset. And then from a sustainability perspective, those four consumers also didn't buy four separate vehicles and use four separate tanks of gas. So it's carbon efficient. That's what we do in freight. Basically, we say that there are millions of shipments globally today, but let's just talk domestically, the lower 48. There are millions of shipments every single day that are all shipping with similar timing and sequencing out of big major markets, going to other big major markets. Let's use Atlanta to Dallas, for example. If you are a shipper today, you really only have a few different mechanisms to move product from Atlanta to Dallas today, right? You can, if it's less than full, let's just say it's not a full 53-foot dry van worth of freight, you can, go through an Estes or Old Dominion, a YRC-based LTL transaction. But the interesting thing about that is that the LTL community has tariffs, right? The LTL community has cubic capacity and linear feet rules that basically tell the shipper that up to a certain point, this is optimal freight for us, but over that point, it's suboptimal. So then you say, if you're the shipper, well, what do you do when you're over that line? That line is generally between 5 and 10 pallets. So let's just say you have 6 pallets or 11, or you have more than that. What are your options? Well, you'd either buy volume LTL and have your products, maybe arrive to the destination in a week, maybe 2 weeks, and went through 5 to 10 different terminals in the process. Lots of damage potential, lots of delay potential. So overall, not the greatest experience. Not a bad experience, but the typically preferred experience is, I just don't want my products touched at all. Shippers love it when there's just a single driver that picks up their products and delivers it on time. But the only way you really can get that in the industry today is if you buy the asset outright or rent it outright, right? In that transaction, you buy full truckload. But again, this isn't full truckload freight. There's only 12 pallets. So Jorie, what our platform does is say, hey, like, what if there were no rules? What if there was no class system? What if there was just freight moving up and down interstates every single day? And you could use data science to predict the probability that, hey, these shipments can be in the same truck. You don't have to buy separate trucks. What if we could just fill up and optimize every single trailer up and down North America? Well, the data says there's about $100 billion of fiscal U.S. supply chain waste today with shippers paying for air, paying for a full truckload that's not actually fully full. Well, we allow them to optimize spend. We say that that's not a full truckload shipment unless it's cubed or weighed out. We have thousands and thousands of shipments every day that we process in our platform today that just combine together, using algorithms to allow the shipper to have an optimal price point, get their products on time, and be completely carbon neutral. So that's what we do, Jorie.
Hey, man, I appreciate you for explaining that in depth because, we can see the value, especially when you bring it down to such a simplistic level of, hey, I got the opportunity to pool this ride share with somebody. That means that although, I might be in somebody else's space, I'm ultimately going to get a better rate. So I think I'm liking that trade-off. But with what you guys are doing, the freight doesn't have an opinion. It's only the customer. And it sounds like the customer is the one that's also receiving those benefits of having, the opportunity to pay a less rate, not a cheaper rate. It's just paying less. So, kudos to your team there because I don't think there's anybody in this industry doing it quite like that. So, kudos. And with your role as the senior vice president, what exactly are you responsible for?
So I'm responsible for everything customer facing. Customers for us are anyone shipping product. So distributors, manufacturers, et cetera, et cetera. Those are our target customers. I'm responsible for the acquisition of customers, right? So how do you get the right customers to buy at the optimal price points? How do you close more deals, right? For lack of better terms. And then the other side of the coin is there's also, acquisition of new revenue. But I think what's equally, if not more important, is the retention and expansion of existing revenue, right? It's incredibly expensive to go out and acquire a bunch of customers. As human capital is expensive. You don't want to see that customer walk out of the door also in 30 days. So I'm also responsible for the customer success organization, which is just responsible for giving the customer an optimal experience. So we retain them at a high level.
Gotcha. So how does that look like in the terms of what you've been able to accomplish with the company? Like, do you have any type of metrics that kind of speak directly to your involvement with the customers and, since you've actually been with the company, what that's looked like?
Yeah, so I've been in this capacity for 2 years as of last week. When I started this time 2 years ago, we were about an $18 million business at that point in time. I actually had a different name. We were called Optics at that time. We rebranded the week I started. Today, gross revenues are in excess of $300 million. In the last 2 years, we've also raised over $200 million in venture capital, mostly from the likes of SoftBank is our leading investor at this point in time, followed by Google Ventures, and a few other venture capital firms. And of course, there was some seed money early on. We went from 40 employees to just under 400 employees in the last 2 years. And most recently, we're awarded CNBC Top 50 Most Disruptive Company globally, which I think was pretty cool, right? Because that's a wide acknowledgement. It's not quite as narrow. It's not a freight award. We're on the list with DoorDash and Instacart and all these different cool apps that are on your phone today. So that was a pretty cool accomplishment. So, Jorie, we've accomplished a lot in the last 2 years.
Oh, no doubt.
A long way to go. It's a long way to go, but it's been a good 2 years.
Yes, sir. And who doesn't want to be on that disruptor list? Because what a disruptor does is come through and destroys things, or at least destroys the status quo. And most of the time, it's making it way more efficient. I think I got this from you probably an hour ago of what a good invention does. It does nothing more than take a process that's 3 steps and makes it 2 steps, or a
Yep.
process that's 2 steps and make it 1 step. And I think that's exactly what you guys are doing. So thank you for that alley with that quote. I think that's going to stick with me because that was a good one.
Well, you commonly have people pitch ideas, and I love entrepreneurship. I'm an avid Shark Tank, fan, and I'm just kind of addicted to the whole process of, raising money. But you hear a lot of people just these really outlandish ideas. They're like moonshots, and most of the time those ideas don't work. It's not because people aren't passionate about them or that they're potentially bad ideas, but the best inventions are typically things that you do every single day that you've identified are really inefficient, the way you do them every day, and you come up with a platform or product that makes it more efficient. I mean, like we're talking ride sharing. Think about Uber. I mean, that seems far-fetched today for you to go call a taxi. I don't know. I don't even.
Right.
I would use the yellow book, 15 years ago, and find a taxi company and get picked up. That doesn't even seem. That's a foreign concept today, and it's a very simple idea when you think about it, right? That there's new capacity in the marketplace with just everyday people like me and you and everybody on this call. And maybe there's people out there who would be willing to pick up other people and turn their car into a taxi, right? Like now it seems like a very simple concept, but it makes sense if you think about it, right? And that's a great invention. And that's what I meant to earlier, Jory. It's how you take something that takes 3 steps a day and turn it into 2, how you take 2 steps a day and turn into 1. So that's what I typically look for in startups.
Oh, definitely. And look, just to mention startups, actually before we transition over to startups, I did want to talk about the actual sales portion and the metrics with Flock Freight, because there was, 2 years ago, you guys were moving about $1 million a month in revenue in sales. And what would you say that number is today?
Just over 25 million in gross sales per month today, with a clear path to 30 million. I mean, we could move more than $30 million a month in freight today. That's in our portfolio, but like all of us on the line, we got to take smart, calculated risk every day and be profitable. And because that we take a pretty conservative posture, so 25 plus million a month, but we've got our eyes on 30, 40, and we feel like we'll be there in the next 6 months easily.
I can agree, because my personal experiences with Flock Freight as a dispatcher, so shout out to all the dispatchers and fleet owners in the house. But Flock Freight, they pay y'all. For the majority of you guys, that my fleet consists mostly of box trucks, and the fact that Flock Freight pays box trucks just as much, if not more, than they would pay a semi for the same amount of work, the same amount of miles. So I'm a user. I actually advocate for folks. And shout out to Raven. She's not in the room right now, but she is the one that specifically told me to look out for Flock Freight, months and months ago. So everybody, take it from me. If you are trying to get your trucks moved on some high paying loads, I would encourage you to look up Flock Freight. So that's my plug. But going over to just you mentioning startups, what other startups have you been a part of?
So, 2 that are probably most notable. One's really not a startup at all anymore, but I was an early employee at a company called Coyote Logistics. I started Coyote in 2009, and at that point in time, we were about 50 million. You got to think too, like these numbers are big, but we work in arguably a $500 billion space. So there's a lot of $50 million, kind of smaller trucking companies today, and that's where Coyote was. I mean, when I left, we were 1.8 billion, and we were acquired by UPS. I stayed on for UPS for about a year. So that's one. The second is I was in Atlanta for about 2.5 years and helped start a company called Stored. Then that's in flexible on-demand warehousing. Stored. I was employee number 3, and no, I was 4 actually. And at that time, sorry,
I said employee number 3. That's just wild. You're employee number.
Yeah. So we had a little WeWork right there in Midtown. What's that? 11th and Peachtree Street. And it was just me and a couple founders. And at that point in time, I won't speak about our revenue since I'm not currently an employee, but we had some small capital from seed funding, and just shortly after raised about $12.5 million through Kleiner Perkins, which was our Series A. And, over the next probably 18 months, took the company to, call it $1.5 million and monthly recurring revenue. We hired about 75 employees. Stored now has $1 billion valuation as of yesterday. So congratulations to, that team. So those are probably, and now obviously Flock, so those are probably 2 current tech-enabled startups and then 1 really large freight broker now in Coyote.
Oh, no doubt. And that's major success for both of those organizations. I actually had to text my buddy like, hey, look at what your company just did. When I read the FreightWaves article this morning, I had to text it over to her like, hey, man, I guess you're working with a winner. Actually, she says hello, Christy. So, hey,
Nice.
Christy, how you doing?
Christy Bledsoe?
Yep. Christy.
Oh, yeah. Tell her I said hello.
She hears you. Yeah, she's from the 478, and if you guys don't know, that's Middle Georgia. We roll deep in Atlanta, so But so from Stored, and actually from Coyote. Tell me, how long have you been in this industry, brother?
So I've been in the industry about 15 years total. I had a really unorthodox entrance into the industry. I'm from Huntsville, Alabama originally, so I'm a long way from home. I live in Southern California today. I was in the music industry as a teenager, and I had a record deal. I was living in Atlanta, and I toured. I did Ellen. I've sung with LaToya Luckett. I've been on a lot of different TV shows, and that's really my passion. But I was a starving artist, like a lot of people out there, and I was trying to figure out, what do I do with my life? I had no clue what I wanted to do. So I took a job working for the Army. I was in the PM Apache group for about 1.5 years as a civilian employee, and we were managing helicopter parts in Afghanistan. And, it's not that I didn't enjoy the work. I just didn't feel very intellectually challenged, to be honest with you. And, when you come from being on stage with thousands of people watching you, that's like an addicting kind of feeling, right? So just to go and have a regular office job was just not for me. So I quit and moved back to Atlanta, and I was just literally sleeping in as many studios as I possibly could, just trying to get studio time and et cetera, et cetera. And I needed money. I had no money. And I took a job as a dispatcher, as a temp agent at Coyote, in 2009. Making like $7 an hour, at that time. Yeah, very, very entry level. Might as well be working at McDonald's. It was all the same. And I just felt something different about that. There was a startup at that time. The energy was infectious. It was a bunch of really creative people that I felt like were very similar to me. And I got into freight. I really, really began to enjoy the challenges of the supply chain. And I enjoy being in Atlanta, doing it too. But I'm probably like a lot of people on this line. You have these interesting forks in the road where you may be getting torn in a lot of different directions. I really, really wanted to stay in the music industry, but man, I was getting older, and you start wanting to settle down with somebody, and you got real responsibilities. And I was like, I got to turn this job into something. I got to make it a career. So I ended up pitching the CEO. His name is Jeff Silver, and basically just throwing my hat in the ring. Just like, hey man, I've traveled all over the world. I got a degree, and I don't know anything about sales at this company, but I've been selling myself as a musician for 10 years. I made it pretty far, but I never quite made it. if you would give me the opportunity, I'll be a top seller at this company. And I sent that email to him and his wife, Mary Ann, and I got a phone call about 20 minutes later. And basically it's like, hey, would you move to Chicago? And I was like, yeah, for sure. Why not? Right. It's like, well, how soon? I was like, yesterday. And they're like, okay. And I moved to Chicago and 2 weeks later. And I was right. I bet on myself. I was right. I did become a top 5 seller at Coyote. And that's a sales team of about 500 people. End up being director of sales, overseeing our Chicago headquarters, Ann Arbor, Columbus, Ohio, and we had a Hoboken, New Jersey office. And I just began to think about it a lot differently, man. It became, I don't know, it piqued my creativity just like it did to be in the studio. And I got really, really into logistics. I began to be fascinated by all the nuances. It's so interconnected. You can't do this by it yourself. You know, it don't matter how great your trucking company is, you need shippers. And I don't care how great the shippers are, they need trucking company. And I don't care how great both of those constituents are, you need great technology, right? I just became fascinated with all of it. So after the UPS acquisition, I was vice president at Global Trans, so I moved to Scottsdale, Arizona. I had a brief stop in Minneapolis to open an office in Minneapolis, and then we moved to Scottsdale, Arizona. And I was running Global Trans for about 2.5 years, but I'm not a big corporate guy. I don't know, Jory, something about being in a big stuffy office. I thought that was my dream job. It just was not. I wanted to get back into entrepreneurship and get into startups. And that's how I got to back to Atlanta, right? And met, Sean, Henry, and Jacob Boudreau, the founders of Stored. And they had a great idea, just like a lot of us do. We all have ideas. They did have some capital. They did have some seed money that they had raised and a little small office in WeWork. And I said, hey, let's go do it. And I really enjoyed that 1.5 years of my life. It's not that I didn't enjoy working, and I'm building on that project. Warehousing was just kind of slow for me. It's just my personality. I'm a pretty high energy guy, and freight is very fast paced. So that's when I decided to move again. You probably find a similar theme. Move again to California and take over Flock Freight. So it's been a crazy 15 years.
Man, you just said a lot, bro.
Yeah, it was a lot. I know. It's too much.
No. It's just the crazy amount of experiences you've already had in your young life. Y'all, this brother, I ain't going to put your age out there if you don't want me to. But
I'm 34.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm 34. You can put it out there.
This brother's 34 and has been leading all of these top-notch logistics companies that we all know about. Every one of the companies this brother has just mentioned is a household name by somebody that's working in this industry. And having all of these experiences, just hats off to you, brother. How do you feel as though you got here? You know what I mean? Like, what made you say, I'm going to send that email to these folks to see if I can get a better position? What made you do that?
I'm very risk tolerant. I'm aggressive just in life. I'm potentially overconfident. I'm okay with saying that. I'm always willing to bet on myself. It sounds cliche, but I've lived in, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I lived in 6 cities the last 7 years. That's not easy, so I'm not advocating to be a nomad and move all over like me, but I'm opportunistic. And when I see a good opportunity, if it makes financial sense, if it makes good business sense, if I feel like it speaks to my core, I go do it. There are a lot of people from my hometown that I feel like were more talented than me. They are more talented than me, but are just fearful, right, of what failure may look like. And we only get so many trips around the sun. Why wait? Why risk the chance of missing out on your purpose when it could be right in front of you? And you know the answer if you don't do anything, right? But you don't know the answer if you do act on it, right? You'll find out one way or the other if it was the right opportunity for you. And I don't really believe, Jory, in mistakes. I believe in learning experiences. I haven't gotten it all right. I made probably more mistakes than I've gotten right. I've just made the right decision. So when I bet and I made it right, it's went very, very well for me. And I just think that's just something different about me. There's a lot of people that are more talented than me. I'm sure there's more people on the line that know more about freight than I do. I'm the guy that's pitching ideas all the time. I've always got an idea. I'm the guy that's willing to pack up and move when other people are like, nah, it's got to be right for me. I'm not going to pack up and leave. I'm the guy that said, yeah, I'll take that job. Yeah, I know I'm young. I'll go take that new job that no one's ever heard of. No one heard of Flock Freight 2 years ago. No one would take this job when I took the job. Now we have 200 applicants today, like pending. When I started, no one would take the job. I remember candidates used to reject me. They'd say, no, I like my job at Echo. I like my job at C.H. Robinson. I like my job at Coyote. Well, now there's 400 of those people that work for us today. And somebody had to be the first one to take that job, and that was me. So that's my philosophy.
I hear you, man. And that's a strong philosophy. I pray that somebody heard that message, that they were in a spot thinking about should they start betting on themselves. Like, I've even been in there, even the message of, some of these things that we go through aren't failures. They're learned lessons. Like, you learn what not to do, or you learn a different route. I actually had to, turn my experiences from what I thought were failures into that same thing. I got to that realization a little bit later than others, so I pray that somebody just received that message. And, we talk about you being, risk forward. You're okay with tolerating the risk, and you move to all these different places. But, I know you have a family too. How is that enduring all of that change when you have to, keep that core unit together? Was that difficult?
Oh yeah, no. Got a rock star wife, backbone of the family. I'm not here at all without her being tolerant, it's not easy. I've kind of lived on the road the last 10 years. I got two small boys. So, in a weird way, the pandemic has allowed me to be closer to home than ever. I can do my job anywhere in the world. I can talk to 10 decision makers at Fortune 500 companies without ever touching an airplane, which is the first time in my life that's been, humanly possible. So this is probably I don't know, I feel like I'm in the best place I've been in my life right now, which is just by the grace of God, to be honest with you. And it's been tough on the family for sure, but I think it's been well worth it overall. But we'll probably settle in now, though. I don't know if we can afford too many more moves.
I hear you. The boys starting to get a little bit older, so the moves, you want to keep them in. Well, I'm not a parent, so I'm not going to tell you how to parent. But I would imagine it's keeping them in the system when they're starting to realize where they are. That makes you think that. Yeah.
The good schools out here in San Diego, so we'll probably settle in. But it's been tough. But everything is tough, right? Like, if we weren't moving, we'd have challenges too. There's always going to be something you're dealing with. But if you're going to deal with something, why not deal with something that's at least driving you forward in life, and not keeping you stagnant and still. So it's been tough, but I think that there are worse problems to have.
Man, I couldn't have said that better myself. That is definitely one of my mantras that I picked up in life is, something is going to be hard. So you just got to choose your hard.
Yep.
It's hard being broke. It's hard working hard in order to get yourself more options. But which one would you rather put your energy into? So,
absolutely.
Okay. So look, now that we found out you were in the music industry, y'all, look, let me just say this. Look, when I first asked his brother to be on this discussion to be interviewed, he said yes, very, very kind like. And then I found him on IG, but I didn't know him outside of that. So the very first video I saw was this man singing. I was like, whoa, where did that come from? This is the SVP, Senior Vice President in Logistics. What is this? So, the fact that I was very surprised, brother, to say the very least. And, what would you say was kind of like your most the hardest thing you had to endure as a starting artist, while you were transitioning into working in logistics?
So I had a life-changing experience that probably pushed me further into supply chain. So I was on season 7 of The Voice, and this is the Gwen Stefani and Pharrell season. And you can't look it up anywhere because why? It was a life-changing experience, So you audition for this stuff. There's like 50,000 plus people, and they pick 100, and I was one of the 100. And then there's just like this lottery system, and you pick a number and you end up on a certain day for like the blind audition. So this is like a 6-month process. And you take a leave of absence from work. They give you like per diem every day to just keep you alive so you can get some food. You got to leave your family and be in LA basically for a period of time, doing choreography, picking your songs and all this stuff for the show and all that, whatever. All right. So I give 6 months of my life to the show, and I just picked a bad number. I picked the number really close to 100, and I was on day 5 of the blind auditions, which is like the numbers. And at some point in time, they're going to close the doors and say, hey, we've got enough. The 48th chair just turned. And man, that happened to me. Like I was literally up next, and the 48th chair was turned while I was at that red door with the mic in my hand. Like I had the most anxiety you could ever imagine you could have in your life. My palms are sweating, my heart's racing. I'm like, this is going to be my shot, right? I'm from Alabama. All the local news crews were supposed to be, covering this. And I was like, I'm going to be like Ruben Studdard, And, executive producer comes out and says, hey, sorry, Gwen Stefani picked that guy that was in front of you. This season is closed, essentially. And I had so many, I was so close, man. I had a major deal. I got dropped. Now I was like, man, God's telling me that this is supposed to be my dream, right? Like I'm on the show. And I still didn't get my opportunity. And I've never probably cried so hard as I did in that hotel room in LA that night. And I had my job at Coyote at the time. And I was just kind of asking God, like, what do you want from me? Like, why would you show me these experiences to tease me? Why would you give me access to this information to see what's going on behind the scenes? And I'm standing in the hills and stuff like that. And like, it's not even for me. Like, that doesn't even make sense to me. Like, why are you playing with me, essentially? And I don't know. It just, I got back to work in Chicago. Everybody knew I was gone for that reason. So yeah, 2,000 people thinking I'm about to come back and be some celebrity. And I'm not. I didn't even get a chance to go on. They want to go look, what day do you come on? Like what time? We're all going to tune in. And I'm like, for the 2,000th time this week, I didn't even get a chance to go.
Dang.
Right. So, something about that moment just was like, okay, like God is trying to tell me something. He wants me to think big. He wants me not to limit myself because he's showing me that anything is actually possible because I'm seeing other people realize their dreams. I'm not seeing mine, but I see other people, so I know it's possible. And I just got back to Coyote with a different mindset. I was in sales at that time, but I started thinking about the business differently. I came back creative and with a chip on my shoulder, like all these people, didn't think I was good enough to even make it on the show. And they don't really know. It's just a lottery system, and that was like a life-changing moment for me. I left Coyote a couple years later, took over Global Trans, helped start Store, and now Flock is, one of the most valued tech firms in freight. Only a few years later, and I think it was that moment in LA where I just kind of realized that I got to start thinking differently about my life.
Jesus, brother. That is a very compelling story. And the fact that you were able to grow through that is very impressive. I don't know too many people that would have such such an experience and be able to turn it into a positive. But man, you talk about a chip on your shoulder. You came back wreaking havoc.
Yeah. I mean, imagine everybody you know, man, like, hey, what day do you come on? And you're like, man, you gonna keep making me replay this. No, man, like I'm not coming on TV. No, I'm just like you. I gotta go close some deals today. I got a lot of freight to move. Yeah, I'm not gonna be a star. And that's okay. That's okay.
Well, you know what? I'm pretty sure at some point, you're going to be able to revisit whatever passion that you have. I know it was in music originally. Now I know that it's kind of burning for logistics. But whenever something is really in your spirit, I know that it's going to come back up. So, I just
I'll be that old guy with the studio equipment in his house forever, making music that no one's going to listen to. That I'm perfectly content with that being me. I'm okay with that.
I hear you, man. And I mean, it's not even like it can possibly end with you. You have the next generation that I'm pretty sure is exposed to those things. So
we'll see.
Yeah. So let's transition a little bit back to your logistics side, which is saying that one of your first jobs was that of a dispatcher, making $7 an hour with, then not so big Coyote. But was there any like core values or any type of, I don't know, competencies that you feel like you learned in that dispatch role that maybe even help you today?
Yeah, great negotiation. Everybody's got a price.
Oh yeah.
Negotiating with shippers nonstop. How do you get the best rate? How do you sell them on value to get them to pay a little bit more? Because we got to make some money too. How do you, develop great relationships with carriers? Owner operators to the likes of Werner and Covenant and, CRST. Like, how do you bring enough value to the carrier where they also say, hey, we can lower our costs for this. We're looking at this partnership as something that's meaning for us on a monthly basis. So my price normally would be $1,000. Well, maybe it's $950. Maybe it's $900. Right? Like just literally demonstrating value on both sides of the coin. As a broker, you got to be very, very good at both if you want to make any money. And I think that's the biggest thing I learned, Jorie, is just how to be valuable to both constituents, because you need both of them essentially. And you can't make any money if both of them don't find value in you. If one person doesn't decide to give you just a little bit more money, give you $10 more, and on the other side of the coin, if they're not willing to lower their price by $10, you're not going to ever make any money in this business.
Hey man, that's a great point. That's the fundamental thing in dispatching. You are talking rates. You are negotiating every single day. Every single conversation with a broker is some type of price negotiation. And I think that is a good point. I mean, I use it every single day. I've been doing it for years, and it feels good knowing that I'm comfortable in that role, to know that you can always get something, you just got to know how to position it. And would you say that you had to study like the formal negotiations tactics, or would you say it's just kind of come natural as you've grown in the industry?
No, I never studied anything. I studied business, as a major in undergrad, and had a minor in communications. Obviously, I talk a lot, as you can tell on this call. I'm very used to communicating, and I don't really view it as negotiation. Honestly, if you're authentic about building great relationships with people, it's really less negotiation, because there's a level of trust involved where both parties just believe you. They believe that, you need $10 more because of XYZ market conditions, whatever the case may be. And on the other side, that the carrier says that, hey, we value this partnership. If you need me to come down $10, that's okay, because you give me 1,000 shipments a month or 10 shipments a month, or whatever that case may be. So it's not really a negotiation, Jorie. It's just great relationships. And that takes time.
Yes, sir. Man, look, man, I'm a fan. Okay, you're saying the things that I believe to the core. So thank you for having this mentality. It's great to know that people in leadership at these large organizations that the mom and pop shop is doing business with actually has that inside of them. So thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate.
No, all good, man. All good.
Well, look, how could, how can the smaller mom and pop shop who's looking to get their own business, maybe direct to a shipper, manufacturer, or whatever, what are some of the tactics or, not tactics, strategies? What are the things that they can actually implement into their conversations when they're reaching out? Like, what are the things that you do when you're going after some of these shippers?
So nothing is more powerful than data. And it can be expensive depending on how many licenses you need, but you got to know where to find the shippers in the first place. You need the information. 20 years ago, maybe we get in our car and we drive through industrial parks, around Six Flags and up off 85 in Atlanta, or wherever, right? And knock on doors of distribution centers, we'll take business cards and go pitch why our product is better than our competitors. Today, you can still do that. It's potentially not as effective as it used to be. But we use a platform called Zoom Info today. I'm a fan of Zoom Info and Dun & Bradstreet, the Hoover's product as a solid BI tool. It can be expensive. We have a lot of employees, so it's expensive for us. But if you're a smaller, entity, you just need one license. It's probably worth the $5,000 or whatever it may cost for that one license. You'll definitely make it back in 2 shipments. And you got to start targeting them in some manner, right? Like where are you focused on? Is it outbound Dallas? Is it outbound Oklahoma City? It doesn't matter wherever that is. How many shippers are in that marketplace? What segments are they in? What type of equipment do you have? Do you have refrigerated equipment? Do you have dry equipment? Do you have box trucks? Do you have flatbeds? Do you have Conestogas? Right? Whatever equipment you have, obviously, is custom tailored to whatever business segment you're targeting or vertical. And having a great BI tool like a Zoom Info or a Hoover's queries, essentially, or filters, and just see all those companies in Dallas that are in food and beverage and 100-mile radius of Dallas. You get contact information. You can see the CEO's email address, cell phone number, office number, LinkedIn profile. You get access to all this information. And it can allow you to go directly to the source. You don't have to go knock on the door at the dock anymore and talk to the shipping manager that's going to, refer you to someone over time. You can go to that person immediately. So that would be my suggestion, to invest in a great BI tool, have good data, have a compelling argument that differentiates you. Shippers will forever be more comfortable onboarding asset-based carriers. So if you're on the line, you own your own trucking company, and if you're a minority owned business, a female owned business, you have some advantages today that you should leverage, and make sure you got the right data. Just don't spend, and I guess I'll say this: don't spend a ton of time trying to find the perfect customers. Go wide. Get 1,000 different shippers that you're interested in targeting in your target city. Practice your pitch. Invest a little bit of time in your website. Make sure that people, when they go to your website, it looks quality. Make sure your LinkedIn page is up to date and looks professional with high quality. Trust me, the shippers are going to both of those sites before they reply to your email. They're going to your website. They're going to your LinkedIn page. And they're crafting their own perception of you before they even talk to you. Right? So make sure you have your profile, your public image up to date. Have great data, and start hunting.
Wow. Hey, man. I was asking for just a little piece of information, but to be honest, what you just gave is something I've never heard before. I've heard, of course, information. Information is key. People sell information all day long. But to the extent in which someone is using this platform, Zoom Info, and your Duns and Bradstreet, DMB. I didn't, I've never actually utilized them as sources to target.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's free game right there. They should pay me a commission if somebody buys their product. But those are tools that are used by leading logistics companies. Flock being one. Time is money. We don't have time to sit around and figure out who to call. Right? We got to have the data readily available and in front of us. So we can make actionable activities from the time we walk in the door to the time we leave. Every minute of every hour a day really matters. We live our lives that way. We definitely go to work that way. So, don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out who to call. Get the data in front of you. Get your lead list. Have your professional image, button up, I guess you could say, and practice your pitch. I would just ask everybody on the call, like what makes you so different? You're interviewing all the time, right? What differentiates you from the other 24,000 brokers in the U.S.? It's incredibly saturated today. Make sure you know what makes you different. Know your competitors, and be able to have a great elevator speech. I know it's cliche, but you got about 15 to 20 seconds in a cold call to get somebody's attention if they don't know you already. Make it good, make it count, make it matter. Go wide. If you're targeting 20 shippers, it's not enough. Have 1,000 shippers that you're interested in and go fast.
Hey, yeah, man. Thank you for that. Like I said, when it comes down to it, there's a lot of talk of, brokers who have training courses that, they talk about getting get your list, get your lead list, get your shippers list. But I don't think I've ever heard it being like you actually pointing to one specific database that has all of this information like that. Recently, there was the discussion of how there is a listing of freight forwarders that list every freight forwarder in the world, so you can kind of like hone in on the specific ones. But not necessarily this. So, thank you.
Yep. Last thing I'll say on those products, real quick. This is a team of entrepreneurs and business owners on the line, so you don't really want to extend credit to a lot of shippers without having your own due diligence process. You don't want shippers extending you out. You got to pay carriers. If you're a broker, you got to pay that driver sometimes as early as 2 days. Most of the times upwards of 30 days. You really want to make sure that there's financial intelligence behind your prospecting. Dun & Bradstreet obviously is the largest credit database. We also use a platform called Ansonia that we look at for credit. And then, Zoom Info gives you just like a basic pre-check. And this is probably not the sexy stuff that people talk about, but, for this team of people that may, be talking to shippers on a daily basis, and you got to pay a driver or a carrier pretty fast. You definitely want some due diligence on the front end. You don't want to start shippers that don't pay their bills. So that's another reason why I advocate for those products.
Okay. Does Flock Freight's information go into the data that FreightWaves SONAR kind of like utilizes?
Yep. We use this on our product, and we push our data to them as well.
Okay. Yeah. We have them on the show weekly. Actually, now starting at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every single Monday. A member of the FreightWaves SONAR team is going to be on our platform giving dispatchers the rundown on where to send their trucks, like which markets are popping and which ones to avoid. But yeah, I do love that product. And so I wanted to just see if you guys were also utilizing it.
Yep. Craig Fuller is a good friend of mine. We have a really great relationship with FreightWaves.
Oh, awesome. Well, look, guys, gals, business owners, entrepreneurs, folks in the audience, if there were any questions, this would be the time to go ahead and raise your hand. As we can see, this brother is a wealth of knowledge. He's seen it and done it with, all of the major players that we all look to today. So if you had a question, I would say that now is the time to raise your hand. And we do have our first person, Miss Ivory. What's up, Ivory? Go ahead and join. How you doing, Ivory?
Hey, Kinfolk, I'm doing all right. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing excellent, man. Thank you for joining us. Look, please introduce yourself and let us know what your question is.
Okay, well, my name is Ivory Jones. I am the owner of 10 Lines Trucking. Um, I always say this. I have one box truck, dock height, and I also have, now we have a hotshot, 40-foot trailer. So I really like Flock Freight. I've used them myself. Um, and let me just make sure, Jorie, can you hear me okay? I just want, because I have new headsets in.
It's going out a little bit, but I can
Okay,
hear you.
let me do this. Okay, is this better?
Oh, yeah, clear.
Okay, better. Okay, so yeah, I use Flock Freight a lot. I actually will say that it's our top three independent load boards that we use every day.
Oh, wow.
As far as how it's set up. I know that you have I think it's 120 days that we can onboard a carrier. So as a dispatcher of um, Emerald Pride Logistics, we try to make sure that we can onboard our carriers on there as soon as possible, as soon as they're able, because we just like how the platform is. There is a bidding process. If you haven't, you dispatchers haven't been on there, there is a bidding process. But I just like the fact that it's upfront. It tells you exactly how much the freight weighs, exactly the amount of space that you need. And there have been freight on there that I sit there and play because I kind of have like a CAD system for my trucks, and I sat there and move it around and realized that hey, I can move this freight for them, and the pay is decent. It's more than decent. I don't have to sit there and fight for the rate. So I like what you guys are doing. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, kind of throw a plug for you, Jay. I really love how y'all are taking this on another level. And for you guys in the audience, they do have brokers. Like we deal with one particular broker all the time. And I just like the fact that he took the time to call me one day and say, hey, do you know anything about Flock Freight? Do you know how we do this? And he gave me a rundown of the program and how it works. And it's just, like I said, it's one of the top three independent load boards away from DAT and truck stop that we go to every single morning. So, yeah, Jay, keep doing what you're doing. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
That's awesome. Wow. Well, I appreciate you chiming in, and obviously appreciate your business and service. We hope that everybody, feels similarly. We don't get it right all the time, but we own it when we get it wrong, and we work to correct it. So I'm glad that you've had a great experience with us. For anybody on the line that has, hotshot box truck equipment, if you target partials or, less than full shipments, I mean, that's a great home for you. Here at Flock, I'm willing to bet, I'm a betting man. Give us 5 years, I think we'll be the top platform for everything that's not full truckload, right? And if you have that smaller equipment type, we're going to have a lot of freight that I think can fill those assets. If you have just traditional over-the-road 48, 53-foot dry vans, we have a lot of freight for you too. About 40% of our business today are just over-the-road full truckloads. So what we want to build is a platform today where a carrier comes to us and says, hey, I can move full truckloads here that pay great. They pay just kind of like what you would find at another broker. Nothing too crazy there, right? But they've got this really interesting multi-stop business and partials that pay me above industry standard, that gets me loaded and unloaded quickly. And considering I can get both the best of both worlds, I can get full truckloads I can find at a Coyote, I can get them here. I can get partials and multi-stops that pay 10 to 20% above market in the same platform. We hope that makes the industry of carriers adopt our platform over the competition. So thank you, Ivory. And for anybody else on the line, www.flockfreight.com/carriers. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to partner with you.
No doubt. No doubt. Ivory, thank you so much for coming up to the stage. Ivory is definitely one of those folks who is heavy in the box truck dispatching game. She has her own unit, like you said, but she also dispatches. So if y'all are looking for a very, very, very competent dispatcher, I will go ahead and say, go ahead and click on her screen. She says right now accepting carriers, Emerald Pride Logistics LLC. So go ahead and hit her up, y'all. But yeah, I agree with you as well, brother. So if there were any other questions, this is the time to go ahead and ask them. Raise your hand. Otherwise, technically, I believe this brother is on vacation, and I don't want to hold him up any longer than we have to.
Yeah, it's all good.
Well, thank you for that. Any other questions? Raise your hands now. Okay.
I feel like I'm at an auction right now, right? Going once, going twice, right?
Well, look, I know once I start this closing, folks are going to raise their hand. But truthfully, brother, just the fact that you are willing to take away from your schedule, all the things that you have going on in your family, to speak with us tonight, I'm just very, very grateful. And, I just want to say you're inspiring a lot of folks out here. Like, you're so young and you're doing it at a major, major, major level. And I just want to say, continue to do what you do. I hope that you and I can continue to communicate from here. And if there was ever a time that Flock Freight or any of your other, folks in your network wanted to come speak and give back to the community, drop some more of those gems, you always have a stage. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate the time, and hopefully I didn't talk too much, and hopefully I shared something that inspired someone. I'll just close by saying, like, I'm no different. I'm no better than anybody on this call. I'm sure many of you, if not most, are smarter than me. I would just challenge everybody on the line to continue pushing yourself every day. I know that sounds cliche, but ask yourself if you're fulfilled doing what you're doing today, if there are other different angles you could take, if you zoomed out and looked at it differently, would you make changes? I'm constantly iterating, I'm constantly making mistakes, and I'm constantly learning from them. And I'll also tell you, don't be afraid to take the next opportunity. As you've heard from me, I've taken a few. I'm probably done for a little bit now, but I'm only here today because I was willing to send an email. Many, many years ago. And the right email, sometimes to get read by the right person, it can change your life. And that's what happened to me. So pray the best for everybody on the line. And again, Jorie, I thank you for this opportunity, man.
No doubt, brother. 06 to the good bros. Everybody, we're closing out, and we'll see you next week. Next week, we're going to have Atlanta's very own Thomas Johnson, United Global. I don't know what the topic is going to be just yet, but that brother's always welcome here. So if you guys have if you need anything, please just reach out to me, and we're going to go for that. Have a great one, everybody.
Thanks, Jorie.